when you go through those uncomfortable, really painful things, and you can address them head on and talk through them, that's where the growth comes from. That's why, how you blossom, and that's where you come out the other side. But you have to be man enough to talk about the things you're going through and those emotions, or you'll get stuck and you'll push it down inside and it'll explode one day.
Hey, welcome back to the Oz Shift podcast. As always, I'm your host, Anthony Trucks, and we have another guest today because it's all about how successful people make shift happen. This person is a success. They're author of a book called The Soulful Art of Persuasion. They're also a CEO of the Year of the Drum. They're also podcast hosts of Soul and Science. So the things that I do, like they do as well, man. And today I'm excited to kind of pop in. We had a brief interaction prior to hopping on here. We have some mutual friends. And in fact, a friend is a person who, if that person would like to call him friend, I know it's a good human being. So today, as we dig in, the goal is to dig deep into the heart of the human, how people have blind spots you can look into, and how you can find ways to be successful, even beyond just business success and financial success. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Jason Harris, man. How are you?
I'm good, Anthony. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you too, man. You got a chill demeanor to you already. I can sense like you got. There's some people I could get on and go, I can have a beer with that person. Not everybody, man.
Good.
But I feel like I have a beer with you, bro.
I don't drink beer though. I drink whiskey.
I don't either. I say beer because it's the thing people, if I say drink tea with, it's like, what does that mean?
Wait, you don't drink any alcohol.
I don't drink alcohol.
You're alcohol free.
I'm alcohol free. I will say that though. I went on a cruise to Alaska with the family last week, and I had a beer with my mother-in-law because no one would drink with her, and I was like, all right, I'll have a beer with you. So
you broke it down. I like it.
Yeah,
how was the cruise? Is that cool?
Cool. I went to Alaska. Yeah. Ever been to Alaska?
I've never been to Alaska. No.
Yeah, I never had until now. They got these massive, beautiful blue. You ever remember back in the day, the Superman and his like Fortress of Solitude, the blue it was?
Yeah.
They're mountains like that, like 200 meters wide. Actually, one was 400 meters wide, 200 feet tall. Like the boats that were driving up to it looked like ants, but just beautiful blue, dude. It was crazy. It was definitely one of those moments you sit and like you cry inside. You're like, this is just, what do I do with all this awesome? Like, it was a really cool experience.
That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, get up there. And we went on a cruise too, so we got to eat a whole bunch of food and drink tea out on the top deck and just it's all steamy. It was a change from our typical cruise experience with the family when we go to like the Caribbean, the tropical places. So good
That's
change.
Fun.
Highly recommend going there.
All right, cool.
Man, let's dig into you, dude.
Sure,
there's a question I always ask people. You can answer it however you want. You could be audacious and bold. You could be humble. There's no right or wrong. But here's the question. I'm walking around town. I sit down at a coffee shop next to you. I don't know you. For some reason, you turn and start talking to me. Why should I listen to you?
Why should you mean? How do I engage you and be entertaining, or what is it about me?
On purpose. Why would, in your opinion, if someone's like, if you started talking, I go, why should I listen to you? What would you say in that moment?
I think I have a really good read on people, and I give really, quality, sound advice based on each individual's experience. So I think I'm a good listener, cool. And I'm a good counselor.
I'll take that. And the funny thing is, most people won't say that. So some people are apprehensive to say they'll give advice because what if that advice is wrong? So what got you to the point of feeling comfortable saying like, I give good advice?
I think I just, first of all, I've done I've had a lot of work experience, professional experience, personal experience. I've done a lot of therapy in my life, and I love mentoring people. That's like one of my passion points. Mm-hmm. And so that's sort of one of my pillars, or one of my beliefs, and I talk about in the book is being generous and having a spirit of generosity. And I think part of that is trying to make every interaction you have with someone, trying to make that interaction meaningful and special, and have them, walk away kind of better off than they were before. And so that's my mindset whenever I'm interacting with anyone.
I like it, man.
Yeah.
Just came. I know it didn't come from nowhere. Like whenever somebody has that kind of a mentality, one, you're present with it, right? You're aware that it happens, and so that typically comes from us. What they say, good advice comes from bad experience or bad action, something like that. I can't remember the whole quote, but it comes from like saying I did some things in the past that I wasn't great at, so I learned this lesson. Where did those lessons possibly pop up for you that taught you that?
Well, in building a business, I was, you know, part of the principles that I talk about in the book. When I started as an entrepreneur and a younger entrepreneur, I really didn't. I kind of hoarded my contacts, and I kept
Mm,
everything close to the vest. And I didn't realize that until kind of later on, and as the business got more successful, your the way you network with people, the way you connect people with others, and the way you look out for other people, and you want everyone to be successful. Your success, it's not just about your success, it's
yeah,
about your network success, it's about the community's success. That idea, sort of the boomerang effect of giving things freely to other people, whether it's advice or counsel or connections, whatever it might be, your time, mentoring people.
hmm,
When you do that, you're giving something to someone else, but you're also getting something back, and
yeah,
you're getting that power of influence and that power of giving that is really good for the soul and good for the spirit. And so that was a learned skill that I didn't come out of the womb like a generous person. I had to have learned that over practicing it for it to become a habit,
right.
and that habit's really done me well in my life.
Yeah, well, you became
Uh,
what CEO of the year in 2021, right?
I did, yes, yes.
How you
I
get
was
that
excited
accolade?
about that in
That's
my
pretty, I didn't
industry.
even get an accolade like that. Who granted that accolade? That's pretty cool.
Well, so in the advertising industry, which is what I run an advertising agency. There's in any industry, there's those trade publications. There's
Yeah,
two or three of them, and
yeah.
they do awards within the industry, and so I won it within the
Okay.
industry. So yeah,
I like it. That's like, guess
yeah,
say
yeah.
who's else in that world? Is that like a Gary V kind of world? You beat out Gary V for CEO too then?
Well, Gary Vee's got a lot more pull and a lot more awards than I do, but yeah,
It's all good. I'm
he
just messing
he
around.
probably didn't even apply.
It's all good.
He was too
How
busy making a TikTok.
making it probably was, man. It makes
Yeah,
good
yeah,
TikToks. It's funny. I mean, people
yeah.
either love or hate him. I'm a guy that kind of sits on the fence. I hold out no reservation. I do from behind the scenes. People that know him. Like he's a great guy here, so that's always good. Uh,
He's a very good person. I think yeah, I think he's a good person. I think he's well intended.
Good.
So I'm more on the like him fence, but
There you
yeah,
go.
yeah.
I dig it, man. So how'd you get to that point? Because to be a CEO is a role that, man, there's a lot that goes into that. I've had people on that are CEOs and I've written books about CEOs, a whole world. I coach people in that realm. Take me back, if you wouldn't mind, to like where the shop started to get that. Because as we go in, I definitely want to dive deep into we'll call it the human traits that have made you. I know there's a conversation about masculinity, but do you mind going back to like, how did Jason develop as a human to eventually get into that kind of position in life?
So a lot of people in their careers sort of they're a lot of people still finding what their passion is or what they want to do. I was fortunate because even as a high school kid, I kind of knew I wanted to go into advertising, and that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so I had that luck that I knew what my passion was. I wanted to go to marketing advertising, and so as I did that, I worked at other companies, and I'd carry a notebook around and learn from people that managed me and company cultures what I liked and what I didn't like. But I always knew I was going to start my own thing. I always knew I was an entrepreneur at heart. And so I was fortunate that I didn't just end up starting a company. I knew that's what I wanted to do, but I wanted to
Yeah.
learn from other people, both good and bad. And I kind of kept that learning and that journal. And so I set up, when we started our company 17 years ago, I set up some values that would guide the company, that the company would sort of uphold, and that
Okay.
was the culture I wanted to create. And
Yeah.
so I don't know that, am I the world's best CEO? I don't know. Are there, blind spots? I've got a million of them.
Yeah. We
But
all
I
do.
do know that culture and values and the way you treat people and how people feel when they're
Yeah.
at your company, that's number one. It's about talent and it's about culture. And so I think that served me really well.
That
Um,
makes sense. I mean, yeah, if
yeah,
you take
yeah.
care of the people that take care of your people, right? I've always like I run businesses now. It's like one of those things where I'm real big on the individuals that are in my closest vicinity in my team are the ones that really got to be served if I want to serve the outside world at a greater level. Like if you don't
Uh,
take care of their needs, it doesn't happen that way.
that's right. And I think the other important thing in leadership is transparency. And I
Yeah.
think whether when times are good, when times are bad, changes you have to make, where you want to go, what the vision is, the more you can talk to the company along the way and bring them up to speed, and you're not making decisions in a with a few people behind closed doors. That's really important for leadership too. I think just full transparency,
Yeah.
speak from the heart, tell people, bring people along with you.
That's big though. A lot of people will be scared to do that though. Like what I mean, I know there's times in my journey as, the leader of my company where there's times I'm like, man, I don't know if I could tell people. What if they know? Like, how did you get to the point where you feel comfortable? Because I even know now there's definitely some people listen and go, man, I couldn't tell everybody internally in the company what's going on. I'd get ostracized or be weird. How do you navigate that conversation? Is it them? Is it what they're doing integrity wise? Could it be something else?
I think you have to get over your ego, and I think there's sort of old school leadership style where you have to always um, feel like you're confident and you know where you're going and you've got everything under control. But I don't think that resonates today. I
Mhm.
think today what resonates is being honest about issues or problems that you're going through, or problems the company's facing. How have a plan of how to get through it, or have a vision of how to get through it. But everybody really responds to being in the know, and nobody likes surprises, right?
Yeah,
Like you
true.
don't like surprises in your life, I don't like them in my life,
Mhm.
and employees definitely don't like them. So
Yeah,
the more that your wife what
my wife hates surprises. I can't do it to this day. I've been with her forever, and she's still I can't surprise her or anything. She gets pissed.
she gets pissed. Yeah, your wife hates surprises. So I think that's kind of a foundational
Yeah,
way that you go through being transparent. I think getting over your ego,
big.
that you don't have all the answers, and
Mhm.
that you need help, or you're struggling with something, that allows other people to also be true to themselves and talk about issues they have, or if they have a problem, or if there's an issue with a client, they can flag it versus trying to have a culture where you think everything's smooth even when it isn't.
Yeah, and I think it also allows them to step more into them, if we'll call it that. Like I know that in my experience, whenever I can pull myself back and go, look, I messed this up, right? It gives them the ability to feel like, oh, okay, well, if he can admit that, like he'll let me admit it, and then people actually give you more. Like my team will, give me more, and I've had people that have worked with me for 10 years at times, and some left and came back because most of I've done the same thing. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes, but I do have that intention, like you're talking about. Like, man, don't surprise people. I even tell people I'm so like transparent that if there's something I'm bothered with, I will tell you the moment it happens. You'll never have to come into work and think, what is Anthony thinking of me?
I love
And
that.
so
Yeah,
those are
that's
just little
good.
things. It helps, man.
It
Uh,
does help. And
yeah,
it's always the best feeling when you run a business or a company and people leave and come back.
yeah,
That's the best feeling, because you're like,
yeah,
okay, they tried something else and they know that
yeah.
we got it good over here.
Yeah, and they felt okay coming back to me because even when people leave or part ways, it's never on like bad terms. Like, hey, that maybe it's a moment for you to grow. We weren't a fit now. I just is a longer game for me of life to play than just this business I'm in right now and making money. It's just like, can I find a way to really go to bed at night every night and feel good about the human I am when I close my eyes? Because if not, I lose sleep. Literally, will still lose sleep to this day over that. So,
I love
uh,
that. I love that.
Sure,
Yeah.
in that aspect, man. So I do know that there's a point I want to kind of we'll call pivot off to, but not too much. I think it ties in the same work you do. Is you're a big proponent of like mental health and giving people like paid time off and like and helping the team, right? So I think part of what we're talking about is you go probably past the work into people's lives. We'll go and help them at that level. Why is that something that's important to you to, as the CEO, make sure you're taking care of the mind and the hearts of the people beyond just work?
Well, I think I'm a big proponent of leading with vulnerability and transparency. And, I want every one of our foundational values is, the value is called weird. And the way
Mm,
we define weird is we want people to show up and be themselves and be fully present at work and be exactly who they are. Like we don't want
yeah,
them to have their out of work persona and their at work persona. We want them to come in with their points of view and their
Mhm.
feelings and their messiness and bring that all to the office. And
Yeah.
so that's a foundational belief. But in terms of mental health, I think it's important for leadership to show the importance of taking mental health seriously. It's just as important as physical health. And I think we're in a time where, went through a pandemic, like coming out the other side, we're heading into a recession. There's a lot of stressors out there. And
A
so
lot.
the way I lead is, I schedule my mental health. I encourage employees to schedule their mental health. There's leading is a big emotional burden,
Mhm.
and your teams that work for you, managing people, working with clients, that's also a big emotional burden. So I think it can take its toll. And so I, as a leader, I say, hey, it's important for me on my calendar, on my schedule. I have, these 2 slots a week that I prioritize my mental health, and it could be,
Mhm.
meditation, could be I do therapy, which really helps flex your emotional muscles, so that you're really critically thinking about how you're doing. You're touching base with how you're doing, not just rolling through the day and your
Mhm.
work week and then getting to the weekend. And
Yeah.
so I encourage employees to also schedule whatever mental health practices they want. But I talk about that in company meetings and the importance of it. So,
Really.
that's one thing that I've added, and I've been on my own journey with that, where I've seen the benefits probably in the past 5 years
Yeah.
of making it a priority, and it's been really effective for me.
I like it,
Yeah.
man. How do you deal with the people in team, like maybe that aren't at that level to step in that? Like, do you ever have people on staff who are kind of like, I don't know about this mental health. I don't know about this. Like, do you have those? Yeah, you smile. You got to have at least one or
Yeah,
percentage
of course.
wise statistic. Got to be some. How do you
Yeah, I
hire
mean, there's
based on that? Do you fire people? How does that work?
no, we don't. It's definitely not high. I just hope that the more I talk about it, the more people maybe look into it or value it.
Hmm.
And the other thing I do is, as a leader, is I'm always thinking about trying to create a safe environment for people where they can be vulnerable. They can talk about what's happening in their life. They can talk about if they need time off to deal with something, that they don't feel fearful or that it's going to stigmatize them at the office, but
Yeah.
that I could create a collaborative, open environment where people can feel safe to share what's happening. They don't have to give details, but they can share, hey man, I need a break for X,
Mhm.
Y, and Z reason. I also talk openly about blind spots that I have and where my shortcomings might be. And I think that allows other people to talk about their blind spots
Yeah.
and not try, self-reflection.
Yeah,
I
it's
think is
big. I
really
mean, if you
important.
can kind of like talk about yourself in like a self-deprecating but not beating yourself up kind of way, it gives people to go, okay, if he could do it, then maybe I can do it. How have you seen the company? Has it grown? Has it prospered more since this was infused?
I think it's really created a much more collaborative, open environment where there's a lot less um, kind of politicking for to climb the ladder. I think
Mhm.
it feels much more like a collaborative environment, and we're all in it together. And whatever business you're in, there's enough hardships out in the world. There's enough competition that you're competing against out in the world. There's enough hard things you're dealing with clients. There shouldn't be battles inside. The
Agreed.
battle should be outside.
Yeah.
And if you create a culture where you don't, if there's someone that's toxic, you get rid of them. If there's someone who is clearly politicizing stuff, or always sort of taking someone's ideas or positioning themselves in a superior way versus in a collaborative way. So we do performance reviews based on our values. One of those is
Yeah.
collaboration.
Yeah.
We hire based on those values,
Nice.
and we sort of have a filter for the kind of people that we want at the company.
Yeah.
And when they see someone that's operating in a way that is fighting against the culture, we make sure to not keep them there.
That's big, man. I've always noticed,
Yeah,
like, and
yeah.
I probably had teams maybe as big as yours. I've had, I think, at any given like 19 people on staff, but I do realize that it was this mental thing I had to switch years and years back. Where I was like, if the team comes to me and says, "Hey, this is going on," and I don't do the right thing, in time they lose faith in the captain. and then they don't
That's
want to,
right.
they don't pull in the same direction. So like for me, it's like they'll bring it to me. I got to be calculated with it, but I know I have to make the decision so that I can protect them and their space. Because if they don't have faith in me as a leader, then they don't get on the boat. The boat don't go anywhere. So like
Right.
being able to navigate, that's a big piece of it too. You have little mutinies on hand.
The boat won't row. It
Oh,
won't
well,
row.
well.
Yeah.
That's a good way to say it. Now you
Yeah.
alluded to earlier, like your own journey with this. Was there a deep, like difficult journey with that, or is it something you kind of went through? Because I know therapy's been a piece of it. And I do want to go into the book that you wrote in this realm, right, about
Yeah.
masculinity
Sure.
and vulnerability. But I definitely want, what is kind of your take on the experience of this that led to you saying, "Hey, this is important for my company to be part of."
Yeah. There wasn't sort of a one key catalyst that I can
Lean
point
on you.
to. I just got to a point in my career where I've definitely put in the 10,000 hours and got to a point where I know what I'm doing. Ran a company, got hundreds of employees, couple offices, and I just felt like, is this where I'm at? Like, have I reached? Is there anything else? Like, what am I going to do next? Am I fulfilled?
Yeah.
And so I kind of went on that journey. Kind of started maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, and so I started figuring out through therapy what does success mean to me, and how do I in my personal and professional life, how do I balance those? How do I determine success for myself? And I did that through some therapy and coaching, and I do a lot of group therapy now, which is different. Which, when you think of group therapy, you think of everyone lost a loved one, and so they're grieving together, or
Yeah. Yeah.
you're all addicted to something, and so you're in group therapy for
And
that.
my name's Brian. Hi, Brian. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. Hey, Brian. Yeah, yeah. Hey, we support you. But
yeah,
the group therapy that I do is, it's with nine other people. It's once a week, and it's really about learning how to deal when people have issues in their life. It's about how you have preconceived notions of other people, how other people view you,
yeah,
because these are all like strangers. You're not going to talk outside of the group. You're in
mhm,
this group. It's just a sample population,
yeah,
and it's really helped me through that to learn about how I'm perceived, how I want to be perceived, and really helping other people with issues they're going through. But the initial step of my kind of coaching and therapy was all about um, defining success, because I felt a little bit like um, I had reached a point, and I still wasn't content. I
yeah,
still wasn't happy,
yeah,
and I wanted to explore why that was, and how do I get happier, and not just keep chasing the dragon of the next success and the next success, because there's diminishing returns with each success you have.
hmm.
You're trying to go back to that feeling of like
The rush in
that
the beginning.
the
Yeah.
rush, that rush, and you never catch that rush. It's diminishing. Just like if you're, I've never done heroin, but that's how they talk about heroin. I think
Mhm.
success is like heroin. They
Chasing
call
the
it chasing the dragon, where you're trying to find that first rush that you had, and you never kind of get there. And
mm,
so that's what I was trying to work through. Is I'm just chasing success for at what end,
yeah.
and just to get that rush. But what am I really doing? Like, what's my
It's big,
purpose?
man. Because
Yeah.
yeah, I like that because it's a matter of you going in and going like I own up to. I felt like it's probably somewhat cathartic also, like having these conversations with strangers. Like, oh, I can have somebody hear it and let it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Totally.
you're saying something that I think is interesting because you're a guy that's had great success financially, publicly, like the whole business, right? But then you go, man, like I started questioning. I had somebody else on a podcast, a fairly prominent name, and she also was going in saying, like, right now, I don't know what I want. Like, I have no idea what I
Yeah.
want. So what do you want? I guess now would be a good question. And then, like, what would you say to somebody who's in that same boat? Because I almost feel like people at high levels feel guilty sometimes when you're like, "Ah, I have everything he wants and he would be happy with, but I'm not like, so I'm not going to talk about it. Like, how do you
Yeah.
navigate that?
Well, for me, kind of the breakthrough for me was I decided, that passing on advice, the book was really helpful, because I got a lot of it turned to it. Success for me is now obviously keeping the business successful,
Mhm.
but it's also helping other people, and that was a big unlock for me. And one of the principles in the book is about being soulful, which is trying to be inspirational and really helping other people. And it's taking my skill, which I had mastered, and selling deodorant and sneakers and you name it. Every product on ice cream, every product under the sun,
Yeah.
tequila, and taking those same skills and applying those skills to do some social good in the
Mhm.
world and doing some nonprofit marketing and advertising to make the world a better place. That's where I really found the sweet spot in still running the business, still
Mhm.
making the business successful, but then helping my skills to apply those to social good initiatives. And then the third thing is kind of mentoring and helping other people, and that's done through the podcast and the book and other tools. But that's really where I started finding harmony in success,
Mhm.
and felt like I was doing more than just uh, expanding my wallet
Yeah.
and personal gains, and
Yeah.
that's really where I found the sweet spot of success for me.
It's a good one, man. I call that hustle harmony. I
I
think
like
Rich
hustle
Hawkins,
harmony.
right? Feels good,
That,
right? It's
that's an Anthony Trucks TM right there.
yeah, take it. I got rock with it. Actually,
Yeah,
we've
that's a
done
good
some
one, man.
talking on it. But I was like, you know what? I am content but not complete at this point. Like I am content. I have a life that I love, a wife that I love, kids I love. I got a great thing going on, but I'm not complete. There's more. There's more I want to see, want to do, but it doesn't take away. So I might have done the same thing you did, navigate like, man, what is this all? Like this is success. Is it
Yeah,
real?
right.
And then you start finding that next tier. So you decided to take all this stuff, this experience, and kind of package it up into a book, which I'd love to know what prompted you to write a book. Was it just the idea you had it? Did you feel called to do it? Somebody tell you to do it? Like, what was the thing that prompted the book, which is the soulful art of persuasion? But where did that idea come to pass?
Yeah, I think that idea came really from starting a business, and I'm an avid reader on self help books, business books, and I didn't really think there was a book out there that talked about how important creating your character is
Hmm.
in being successful for in the business world. So that's why there's soulful persuasion, because persuasion is a bit of a dirty word,
It
but
is.
in any business you're selling and you're persuading,
True.
and you got to do that to build any business. But there's a way you can do it, and already in talking to you're just innately using a lot of those principles. You talked about playing the long game. That's one of them. It's about not being transactional. And so I just felt like, hey, I built a successful business in a really knife fighty industry, which is advertising, highly competitive.
Hmm.
It's a hardcore business. There was a Gallup poll that I read that the least trustworthy professions in the world were congressman, car salesman, and advertising practitioner. And I was like, man, it doesn't have to be that way, because you can
No.
actually sell and be successful with character. And this is the way that I learned. And there's all those great books like Robert Greene's the 48 Laws of Power, and those books are true and right and good. But I felt like there's a space in the market for, hey, for me, it's all about building business based on character. And if you have a good character and you follow some principles, I think you too will have success. And so that prompted me to write the book.
I like it. That's true, man. Persuasion is a big piece. I think Robert Cialdini's got, his whole thing on like copywriting persuasion, which is it's a different realm, but it's not about doing it just it's understanding the psychology of humans, because sometimes people are their own enemies, man. Like we have some that's great, but they get in their own way. And if you can't persuade someone with the right intentions, then they get stuck. And then
That's
it's
right.
almost like it's on your fault for not doing what need to be done to get them out of their own way, saying, go, oh wow, okay. But it is a wonky spot. It's an interesting dynamic to
Yeah,
navigate.
because you're not trying to, I think it's labeled as trying to convince someone to do something they don't want to do, and that's not what it is. It's
No.
about understanding other people. It's about human nature, and it's about getting people to the right answer that they think is the right answer, and hopefully it's what you think is the right answer.
Hmm.
And that's really, there's a way to do it that is a soulful way to do it, and there's a way to do it that's creepy and transactional.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
And the thing
yeah.
is, I mean, just because somebody doesn't want to do it doesn't mean that it's the wrong form. Like if somebody says, I want to be in shape. Okay, well, you got to work out. I don't want to do that. Like, well,
I,
you kind
I
of
mean,
have to.
that's a good example, and instead of hey, you know, you're out of shape and you know, you're heavy, uh, and that's the reason, you know, instead of going the negative route, you could do it in a way of like, wouldn't it be great if you could have more stamina to play with your kids longer, or you know, like if you were healthier and you didn't have to go to the doctor so often, you know, you can play it in the positive aspects. Great example, like there's always a way to use the pull of positivity to get someone to do something that you know is going to be beneficial for them.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah,
framing differently, man. Because if not, like most people's headspace, what they say that there's a National Science Foundation, a whole study came out, and as human beings, we have like up to 60,000 thoughts per day. Of those thoughts, I think 85, I want to say, are negative, and 90% of those are repetitive. So people constantly have negative thoughts, negative perspective. So when you throw one that's positive in, it feels like awkward, and they don't know how to navigate that. When really, that's usually the biggest thing holding them back from moving in the next stage.
exactly. I love that. Yeah, it's right on.
It's a weird little thing, man. So what's the book about? Because I'm gonna be honest, I was not told much about the book prior to. I have read a little bit of a snippet, but I always like to have like from the person who wrote it, like what is the book about, and also who's the book for?
Well, I think the book's really for anyone. I mean, it really is. But because the reason why I say it's for anyone is whatever line of work you are, even if you aren't running a business, you don't want to be CEO. We all have careers and we all have personal lives, and persuasion is just a part of our life, and that could be persuading your boss to give you a promotion. It could be persuading someone to hire you. It could be, you know, what you and I are doing, persuading, you know, people to, you know, trying to inspire people to do their best work. Could be persuading your spouse to go on a cruise to Alaska when they don't
Yeah,
want
right.
to. You know, whatever it is, we're persuading all day long. There's
Yeah,
like a dance, a life dance of persuasion. And so this was really a guide on how to become more influential and create character building habits for personal growth and sustained business success. And that's really kind of for anyone. So I think it, you know, there's a lot of entrepreneurial stuff in there for starting businesses for sure, but I think it's pretty broad.
yeah, that's good though.
Because
I mean, yeah,
yeah,
we all have human. We're all humans with same feelings, right? There's a lot that go on the same, but the similar ability or spectrum of feelings, maybe different things that trigger them is relative. So I do agree. It's always hard when you write something like that. It's like, man, it's for everybody. Like I don't want to just say it's this for me.
I
I
know,
read it.
but yeah, it is a business book. It's a self help business book, like kind of
Yeah,
first and foremost. But there's you know, instructive lessons on how to build habits that will make people more authentically persuasive. There's entertaining stories. There's pop culture references. So it's a really kind of quick, fun read
yeah.
that I think is really educational.
I like it. I'll pick it up, man. I've been doing
Yeah.
that recently. People have been sending me books, and I read them. Not all of them. Can't get to all of them, but the quick ones, like I have fun reading. I'll put them. Can I read it like in a couple hours? Is it that kind of a quick?
You could probably read it in a day. It's
Okay, cool.
probably an 8 hour read, but
I'll set that up.
uh, I mean, reading is I love reading. I never have enough time to power through all the books I have either.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's hard to carve out that time.
Yeah, but I do. Once I get into one, man, it becomes this weird like open loop. I got to finish it. I got to know how it ends. I don't like to skip anything. But I do, man. It can't be a good book, dude. I don't know why more people don't.
When you read, are you like are you taking notes in the margins and
Oh yeah,
dog
yeah.
earing? Yeah,
Oh, a dog ear. So my system is dog ear and highlight the section. So the way I
yeah,
dog ear, it'll point in the area where I want, and then I highlight the specific point. I don't put as much like notes and writing in there, but I need a marker, like a highlighter, in the book and a dog ear. I need a book. Like audio
I
books is
need a book too. Yeah.
yeah, but it's something special to have that.
That's
There is
what I do. I do it the same way. I dog ear, I
yeah.
highlight, and then I have like kind of like a journal that I compile. You know,
Makes
I
sense.
try to take like 300 and whatever page book,
Yep.
and then get like a couple pages in a journal
Mhm.
that I take away from it, and then I keep that kind of compilation. But that's the way to do it, dog ear. And I'm with you, man. I cannot. I've tried Audible. I mean, my book. I recorded my book. I read the whole thing. Did Audible thing, but
Dude,
I need to hold that thing. I need
Yeah,
to hold
man.
a book.
I
Yeah.
dig it. There's something to it to have it like tangibly in place, and I think the one thing is what you're doing too is people don't know it's called increasing cognitive rigor. So to write it down, like, and I'm aware I should do this, but I don't always do it. But like to write it down somewhere, it's your brain doing extra work to seed that into at least a little bit of the subconscious. So you could probably pull thoughts out. Like if I asked you, tell me about a book, no idea. But if we had a conversation point, we go down, you might randomly remember that point and go, oh, from this, and then it comes out because I wrote it down and it gets stored somewhere.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it does have high recall that way for sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now there's one area in this kind of conversation that is one most people don't talk about, and it's the vulnerability aspect. But you talk about vulnerability being one of the actual strengths, masculinity, like a masculine strength. Those two words don't typically pair together. Now, I think innately, I get it, but I don't want to butcher it in terms of like what your thoughts are. What are your thoughts, and why do you believe that vulnerability is a great masculine strength?
Well, I think you have to lead with vulnerability and authenticity, which I know is an overplayed word, but it allows you to have empathy for other people. And vulnerability, one of the first principles in the book is called be original. And that is really comes from, I mean, to sum it up, it's the Oscar Wilde quote, be yourself, everyone else is already taken.
Hmm.
And this, it's not being afraid to show your personal idiosyncrasies. It's, collect role models, draw inspiration from unique experiences in your life. Uh, Identifying your core values as part of being original, really understanding who you are, what your belief system is, and that opens you up to being vulnerable with other people. And when you're vulnerable with other people, and you can tell stories, learning how to be a great storyteller is really another important one,
I agree.
because kind of like where you were going, if you want someone to remember something, the mind is a story processor, not a logic processor. We
Hmm.
remember things through stories. We remember
Yeah.
things through, um, you know, people telling us parables about something
Mhm.
that happened to them and something you might be going through. It's not about facts and data.
Yeah.
And part of being vulnerable is telling stories that connect with other people of something you've gone through. That allows other people to be more vulnerable. And when you're vulnerable with other people, you create an emotional connection that's much stronger, and you're going to collaborate much tighter than if you feel like you're on the outside, you don't really know this person, or this person's guarded.
Yeah.
So part of being masculine is being yourself, being original, and that vulnerability is a big part of that.
Yeah, yeah. I know it's like expressing too, because I mean, I used to play linebacker in the NFL, and I'm also a black man,
The
and so
Steelers, right?
Steelers, Bucks, Redskins, yeah, and so
What was your
linebackers.
favorite team, by the way? I was going to
Our
ask
favorite
you.
team was the Steelers, man. To be honest, I with the Redskins was cool. I was Coach Gruden. He's a hard nosed dude. It was Florida. If you know Florida, people they don't go outside and hang out. Like it's just kind of like we went to work and you went home and like that was it. So we didn't have like a lot of hangout. With the Redskins, it was cool. Now the Commanders, but it was like a flashy kind of thing. And, Snyder is a big on paying people, so guys that roll up in there, literally had guys in their Phantoms driving themselves in their Phantoms to work some days, and it's like a little
Jesus.
bit too much. The Steelers, bro, blue collar. Like you had the first round draft pick rolling up in a Toyota Camry. Everybody wore sweats. They hung out afterwards. Let's go get a bite to eat. It was a different sense of feel. And Coach Tomlin was cool because there's a point when like I got there, first day of practice, and I looked to my right, and all of a sudden Coach Tomlin's there. And for me, in my experience, when the head coach is standing next to you, it's not a good thing. Like it's kind of weird. So I'm
Yeah,
like,
he's watching you, right? Yeah.
yeah. I'm like, I said, I think I asked, I said, everything okay? He goes, yeah. He goes, what's going on? I said, well, I've never had like a head coach come stand. He goes, it's hard enough to get into this league. I'm not going to make it hard for you to be here. I
Oh
was like,
man,
dang, bro, right? And that year they wound
that
up
is
winning the Super
so
Bowl.
good.
Yeah, it was a good gel team. And like I got hurt the first game of actually first preseason game of the year. Career ended. It kind of sucked, but that was my experience. But then honestly, quickly after that injury, I go home. And this is where that vulnerability conversation comes in. And my culture, like you don't talk about your feelings. It's not what you do, And then as a football player, you don't talk about your feelings like hard nose. So when I had things going on and I wasn't talking about them, boy, it bottled up this pressure where at one point I was like suicidal, and
Oh
it had to
man,
come out. But when it did, dude, my life is so smooth right now. Like
how
I
can I
wake up.
ask you? How'd you get over that?
To be
Because
honest,
that's
man,
very vulnerable for you to share that. I mean, I'm sure
yeah,
you've
right.
shared it before, but
It's
how
been
did you
rough,
get
rough
over
road.
that?
I had a guy named Richie Beltram. He's a buddy of mine. And it was after like I had driven off one night, and I was looking for some things, and thankfully nothing happened. I got redirected, went back home, and a couple days later, I go back to work, because what do you do when that happens? It's not like a playbook. You go back to your life. And so he pulls me into the back. He says, first of all, never do that in your life again. When I found out what happened, I almost threw up. And then he said the second thing that was weird to me. He goes, when I heard what had happened, for a moment, I thought I'd lost a hero.
Oh, wow.
Now I'm a guy that's like, I played high school football with him. He's a buddy. He works at a gym for me. And I was like, that. I said, why would you say that? And he goes, because you've done a lot of things in your life that people have watched you do, and you have a lot of strength for our community that people just don't tell you enough. He says, but you always got a lot of people to talk to, man. And so it was the first moment of me realizing, like, man, like, people are paying attention. People do actually care. And I need to talk about this. And so I sat down, I would talk to people about, I was going through the middle of a divorce and stuff going on with the business, just so much, and it was a weight. But because I couldn't be vulnerable, it just stacked. And my thought was, well, I can't face this. I don't have anybody else that's going to get this. I'll be looked down upon if I tell it. Let's just get out of here. And so being able to press that out into the world created what you see now. And it's blossomed over the last, decade plus. But that was a huge issue for me as a man, being able to feel comfortable being vulnerable.
That's such a great story. I mean, and that story, talking about it with your listeners and your audience and within your network, you probably are, saving someone's life by being able to talk that openly about it. And I mean, that's the power of vulnerability
I
right
agree.
there. Like and I think that makes you, um, more of a hero, and more, vulnerability makes you more masculine.
Yeah,
But
it's a
that
strong.
you have the strength to talk about that and not push it down and bury it, which
Mhm.
is your natural male inclination.
Yeah,
But to fight that and talk through it and find others that you can connect with on that, that's super powerful.
yeah. It's
And
more of
it,
it's a goal for me to do hard things. Like my family, like the one thing we do, all of us are athletes, my wife included, like everybody gets down. And it's like, we do hard things. We will do hard things. And it's not that it's a masculine trait, but it is more of a masculine trait to do that hard thing. And at times, the hard thing is talking about soft feelings. It's
yeah,
hard. So
it's
it
hard.
is. I agree with you. So I was saying, like, I agree that it's actually, vulnerability is probably one of the most strong masculine traits. A man who can say, I'm big, I can handle myself in a fist fight, right? But I'm also going to tell you about how you hurt my feelings, dude, because I got them. They exist within me.
That's so true. I mean, one quote I always go back on is, there's no growth in comfort. And I think
Hmm.
when you're going through, I went through a divorce. When you go through those hard things in life
Yeah.
that we all go through at some point, I had someone close to me recently commit suicide. It was like the hardest thing I've ever gone through.
Yeah.
That though, when you go through those uncomfortable, really painful things, and you can address them head on and talk through them, that's where the growth comes from. That's why, how you blossom, and that's where you come out the other side. But you have to be man enough to talk about the things you're going through and those emotions, or you'll get stuck and you'll push it down inside and it'll explode one day.
Yeah.
But you got to be uncomfortable.
Got to be. And I think you talk
Yeah.
about too, like, blind spots, because this is for somebody right now listening, there might be a blind spot that they're being made aware. Like, if you feel that, I'm talking to you as a listener right now, is if you feel like a pressure or weight and you feel maybe helpless or hopeless, or you feel like there's no one that listens to you or hears you, this could be opening a blind spot of you just need to go and talk to somebody. In your opinion, Jason, like, where do blind spots typically show up, and like, how do you approach them?
I think blind spots, we all have uh, blind spots, and they come up in different points in our life. But I think, some of them can be being afraid to ask for help. It can be avoiding difficult conversations. It could be pointing the finger at other people.
Hmm.
They can show up in a lot of different ways. And I think, um, giving yourself space to reflect, like that's number one. I think taking time for self reflection,
Hmm.
to really think about, maybe even, I'm a big journal guy because I've talked about it like 3 times. But
Hmm.
I think jotting down situations that you wish maybe you handled differently during your day,
Yeah.
or at the end of the day, some behavioral changes you want to think about. So you can examine those and figure out, okay, this made me feel this way and I reacted in an angry way, or I put someone else down because I was feeling insecure. And I think, taking time for self reflection will help you uncover and overcome your blind spots. And then I think embrace challenges is another one. If you are avoiding hard conversations, if you're letting, your ego get in the way, trying to move outside of yourself and really look at those challenges as growth opportunities and
Yeah.
take them head on. I think that's where growth can come from, and you can get past your blind spots because we all have them,
Yeah.
and we all want stuff to be uh, easy, or we want to avoid something thinking it's going to go away, but it doesn't.
It
You
does
know?
not, man. It does not.
Yeah.
And I agree. That's very promising in terms of steps to take for somebody. We're at time, man. I want to make sure I keep on track for you and your
Oh, thanks,
schedule as
man. I
well.
appreciate that.
Two final questions. First question is, where do I send people who want to either buy the book or engage deeper with you?
I have a website, thesoulfulart.com. You can check that out. I'm on social media at Jason_Harris. And if you want to know more about my company, it's mechanism.com, mekanism.com. It's a K instead of a CH
Yeah.
because the CH was taken when we came up with the name. So we
All
made
good.
it a K, but it's
It works.
mechanism.com. It
There you
works.
go.
It's cool.
I
It's
like it.
cooler
I like
that
it.
way.
As long as it's
Yeah.
not three of them, we'll be good.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
Exactly.
joking. Hey, final question. So you just make sure you get this. I always ask this question. What promise did God or the Creator make to the world when they created you?
What did they make to the world? What? I don't understand the question.
So what
It seems
promise
to
did
be
they make to the world when they created you? What promise for
what
your life was made to us as humanity when you were created?
what would yours be?
Oh man, my promise was that I will be an example of what to do when things don't go your way in life and how to make something amazing out of it. And then I'll to be a person that can give that back to the world.
Damn, that's a pretty good one. I think the the prom. One thing that I live by is trying to have other people role model that, like, what fundamental belief I have
Mm.
is treating everyone it's kind of what we started our banter at the beginning of the show before we were recording, but treating everyone in the world as if we're all equals because we are all equals on this earth.
I
And
agree.
that to me is something that I live by and I uphold and I try to, model for my kids. And whether you're the CEO or you're the janitor, we are all exactly the same and we are all going through the same life experiences in different ways, and treat everyone as equals because we're all equals.
Boom. I love it, man. I fully agree. It's literally the way my life runs and should run. That's it, man. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode or found something of value, please rate, review, and do the extra thing. Share. Somebody probably needs to hear something that we said in some manner. And if you don't share with them, they may never. So plant that seed. Outside of that, as always, make the most of your off shift moments so you can make shift happen. Anthony Trucks, Jason Harris, signing off. Hey, thank you for tuning in to the Oz Shift podcast. I pray that we gave something amazing to your life. And if you found this episode served you in some way, I would love if you could share it with people you know, people you love, as well as your community, because you never know who needs that simple little seed that can grow into something amazing for their life. And the actual training doesn't stop here. If you want your free copy of the show notes sent to you after every episode so you can get the major points consolidated down, simply go to textanthony.com and message the word notes. Till next time, make shift happen.